The crimson-haired beauty standing in front of me raised an eyebrow in apparent anger. Rhea's Grummery was my master and a voluptuous high-class demon. Here at school, she was also the president of the Occult Research Club. She could be extremely strict, but she was incredibly kind. I adored her. And that beautiful young woman of my dreams was currently letting me rest my head on her lap. Her thighs were delectably soft as ever. Identically, we were both wearing our short-sleeved summer uniforms. It was a wonderful time of the year, the season for wearing light, loose, revealing clothing. The leaders of the summit between demons, angels, and fallen angels may well be scheduled to take place in this town. But to think that the fallen angels' governor would dare to invade my territory and interfere with our business operations. The Prez's body was shaking, jiggling even, with anger. Whoa, talk about scary. That scuffle between us, the forces of God and the fallen angels from a few days ago, had soured relations between the three factions. As such, the leaders of each group had decided to hold a meeting to discuss the future. The Occult Research Club was directly involved with what happened. Not only that, but we were also supposed to attend the conference in person to give a report. Most shocking of all, however, was that Azazel was the foreigner who had been summoning me. Yup, he was my regular client. The most shocking of all, however, he had been concealing his true identity from me up until recently. There was no denying that he was interfering with our demon business. And that wasn't all. Given that he was the governor of the Fallen Angels, one of the leaders supposed to be attending the upcoming conference, his actions had escalated the situation to a whole nother level. This wasn't a game anymore. All that aside, none of us in the Prez's Familia were particularly in trouble. And to think that he was trying to lay a hand on my cute little Issei. He deserves to die 1,000 times over. Supposedly, he's taking interest in sacred gears. He must have summoned you because of your boosted gear. But don't worry, Issei. I'll protect you. I promise. Rias declared as she patted me on the head. She was the kind of high-class demon who took care of her servants, and she hated it whenever someone tried to touch, or worse, to damage her property. The Prez was especially sensitive to threats to me, probably because she fawned over me like one would a pet cat. I was happy to be treated that way, but my feelings were more complicated. I mean, I revered her, but I doubted that she saw me in the same way. In the end, we were a master and servant, owner and pet. She would find a boyfriend one day. After that, she'll grow bored with me and cast me aside. If I didn't become a harem king by then, I would be despondent. I guess he might be after my sacred gear. I mean, that Azazel guy is the governor of the Fallen Angels, right? I asked, giving voice to my anxieties. What would happen if he trapped me? I was too terrified to even imagine it. At this, Kiba, our group's pretty boy, the pensive prince, spoke up. It's true that Azazel has a deep knowledge of sacred gears, and that he's been gathering those who possess them to his cause. But you don't need to worry. Kiba paused there, his gaze shifting down to me. I'll protect you, Issei. That's gross, Kiba. Thanks. It's a bit weird, though. You saying that to another guy with such a straight face. Why wouldn't I? You've come to my aid when I needed it. You're my friend. And I would be unworthy of my station as a knight and the service of Ria's Grummery's Familia if I didn't protect those dear to me. I could understand what Kiba meant, but his tone wasn't meant for a friend, let alone another guy. It was how you spoke to a heroine of a story. Nonetheless, Kiba continued, There's no problem. Now that I unlock my balance breaker, if we charge my sacred gear and your boosted gear, we'll be able to overcome any crisis. I probably wouldn't have got so excited over something like this before. But since I started hanging out with you, something's changed inside me. I don't know what this feeling is, but it isn't bad. It's like a warmth building inside my chest. Gross. Stay away from me. Don't touch me. He seriously needed to stop. There were already a whole bunch of indecent rumors circulating amongst the girls at our school about the two of us. I didn't want to be made fodder for any more homoerotic fantasies. Heck, he had been acting so strangely around me ever since the incident with Kokobio a few days ago. What was I supposed to do if he made a move on me? He was supposed to save that for his clients. Don't say that, Issei. Kiba pouted. Don't act so downhearted. This will only make it worse. Why do you think you're making me so uncomfortable? But I wonder how we should respond. Without knowing what Azazel's up to, it's difficult to know what would be proportionate. After all, he's the governor of the fallen angels. We can't afford to act recklessly around him. The Prez was still busy sinking deep into thought. She was right. We couldn't afford to upset relations between demons and fallen angels any more than we already did. The Prez was pretty strict on that issue. Unless the other side did something unusually provocative at first, she wouldn't consider making a move. Azazel has always been that way, Riaz. Came a new voice from seemingly nowhere. It didn't belong to anyone present. The gathered members of the Occult Research Club glanced towards the sound source and saw a crimson-haired man warmly smiling our way. I knew that face. Akano and the others fell on their knees at the spot, leaving only Ozzy and me unsure how to respond. The newest member, Zenovia, wore a look of pure bewilderment. God, ouch! After pushing me off her lap and onto the floor, the Prez rose up to her feet. But, brother? She murmured, stunned. Yeah, our visitor was none other than the Prez's elder sibling, the present king of the demon realm, Sir Zex Lucifer himself. I would have never expected to see him here of all places. He won't do anything rash like Kokobio did the other day. Not Azazel. He's partial to pranks, though, as you already learned. What's more, he's here sooner than expected. The revered Demon King said. Behind Sir Zex stood the silver-haired maid Graphia. As the Demon King's queen, that was natural. Like Akano and the others, I hurriedly fell to my knees, as did Azia, mirroring my movements. Please relax. I'm here for a private matter today. Sir Zex urged us all, beckoning for us to stand. We couldn't refuse, so we rose to our feet. Dear sister, it looks like a murder scene in here. How is it possible for a group of young ladies your age to put up with these magic circles? Sir Zex inquired with a choking grin as he surveyed the room. He wasn't wrong about the decor. I had gotten used to it, but I had to admit, it was a pretty strange layout. Brother, why are you here? The Prez asked distrustfully. It was obvious why she was on guard. It was unheard of for the Demon King, who carried all demon society on his shoulders, to personally visit a dingy school building out in the human world. In response, Sir Zex handed her a piece of paper. What are you saying? It's almost time for open house, no? I've been thinking about observing your class. I would love to see how close and diligent my dear sister is at her studies. Ah, right. Open house was an opportunity for parents and guardians to look at the children's classes at Kuo Academy, and it was fast approaching. My dad was so excited about it, he had already taken off time at work. That said, I think he was more interested in seeing Ozzy was doing more than me. Now that my parents had 2 girls living with them, they all broke out into celebration at the smallest events. Graphia, did you tell him? The Prez asked, her expression clouded. Graphia nodded. I did. As I oversee the schedule of the House of Gremory, all notices from the Academy reach me. Naturally, as Master Syrzek's queen, I also report them to him. The Prez let out a sigh. Huh? Doesn't she want her family visiting? Maybe the idea of them snooping around makes her uneasy? When I heard, I decided that it would be nice to take some time off and pay a visit to my sister's classroom. Rest assured, Father will be coming too. Oh, Reese's father. I had only seen him once while I had interrupted her engagement party a while back. He had looked like a little dandyish kind of man. You can't. You're the Demon King. You can't abandon your duties just to come here. You can't single out one demon for special attention. Riaz had a point. Even if they were blood relatives, the president liked the Demon King giving her special treatment. Syrzek, however, shook his head. No. This is part of my duties too, Riaz. I've actually been thinking about holding the Leaders' Summit between the heads, here at your school. I've come to inspect a potential meeting place. What? Seriously? I can barely contain my shock. And it wasn't just me. Everyone else was just as surprised as I was. They were going to hold it here? My school was going to host the conference between the leaders of the three factions? Here? Really? The Prez's eyes widened in disbelief. She must have been so stunned that she wanted to double check that she hadn't misheard. Yeah. There's something about this school. Not only does it count you, my younger sister, amongst its students, but also the legendary Red Dragon Emperor, the wielder of the Holy Demon Sword, the master of the Sword de Rondal, and the sister of the Demon King Seraphal Leviathan. Let's not forget about the Kokobeel and the White Dragon Emperor have launched attacks here. All that can't be brushed aside as mere coincidence. Various forces have come together, producing a whirlwind of unlikely happenstances. And the one who set the whirlwind into motion must be Hyodo, the Red Dragon Emperor. Syrzek's gaze turned to me. All of a sudden, I found myself gripped by apprehension. So, you're the Demon King. It's nice to meet you. I'm Zenovia. Interrupted by our newest member, a beautiful young woman whose hair had a shock of green. Despite her appearance, she was also the wielder of the Holy Sword de Rondal, and she was the present's second knight. Greetings, Zenovia. I am Syrzek's Lucifer. I heard about you from Riaz. To tell you the truth, I doubted my ears when I learned that the wielder of the Rondal had chosen to be reincarnated as a demon, let alone the member of my sister's familia. I never thought I would become a demon either. If it wasn't too rude to say, sometimes I regret choosing to join the enemy I fought for so long. Yeah, I know, right? So why did I become a demon? Desperation? To tell you the truth, I would have been fine with anything at the time. But did I really make the right choice? Zenovia started clutching at her head as she fell into spiraling thoughts. She was always saying too much and found herself regretting it later. I just couldn't understand her. It's great to see my sister's familia filled with so many interesting faces. Zenovia, this may be selfish of me to ask, seeing as you only just joined us, but please support the House of Gremory as a member of my sister's familia. I wish you the best. If the legendary King Lucifer from the Bible is asking, then I can't refuse. I don't know how much I'll be able to help it, but I'll do everything I can. Syrzek broke into a smile, one that resembled Riaz's. Thank you, he replied. Zenovia's cheeks flushed pink. Now then, let's save the complicated discussions for later. It looks like it's already night here in the demon world. Are there any accommodations available at this hour? The Demon King inquired. Right. Where are he and Gravia gonna stay? There might be a hotel or somewhere available, but it could take a while to find one. An idea popped into my head, and I raised my hand. In that case... I see. I'm glad to hear my sister hasn't been too much trouble for you. Oh, Sir Zex, Rias is truly a wonderful girl. Yeah, she's practically wasted on our Issei. The legendary Demon King was exchanging greetings to my parents in our living room. The Prez was sitting behind him. Gravia stood waiting in the background. Yeah, I had suggested he stay at my house. At first, the Demon King had stared at me in wide-eyed, but probably remembering that the Prez was living with me, he finally answered, That would be wonderful. I've been hoping to thank your parents for taking Rias in. That settled it. Still, the Prez kept trying to convince her brother to change his mind. The way she continued resisting was actually pretty cute. Nonetheless, there was no stopping Sir Zex and Gravia, and with our immediate business concluded, we all made our way to the Hyodo residence, my house. Ozzy and I watched from a short distance away. The Prez really was cute. What with the way that she was blushing like that, she must have been concerned about her brother, the Demon King might say. It wasn't every day I got to see this side of her, so I was gonna make the most of this moment. As Sir Zex was the elder sibling, he was the only one who was supposed to inherit the House of Gremory. Sir Zex Gremory. That had been his name up until he cast it aside to take on his current role. He seemed to be enjoying his birth moniker as he greeted my parents. And your maid is... my dad asked. She's Gravia, the Demon King responded. Actually, she's my wife. Huh? Excluding the Prez, everyone was floored. However, the individual in question, completely expressionless, pinched the Demon King's cheek and said, I'm Gravia, Master Sir Zex's maid. Do forgive him. He likes to play these kinds of jokes. She was quietly angry. Ow, that hurts, Gravia. Sir Zex said tearfully, unable to properly form words while she pulled at his cheek. The Prez covered her face with her hands in embarrassment. Her family sure was interesting. I hadn't expected the Demon King to be the kind of guy to joke around like that. Gravia seemed used to it though, so maybe he'd done something like this before? So you'll be visiting Rias' class, Mr. Gremory? My mom asked. Probably without her even realizing it, my mom's cheeks had turned red. Was she attracted to the Demon King's handsome, pretty boy face? As a male version of the Prez, he was good looking. Although, the way he was rubbing his pinched cheek wasn't particularly mature. Yeah, I've taken a break from work, so I thought I would use this chance to see how my dear little sister is doing, and what her school is like. Our father should be coming on that day as well. Rias' father too? Our father helped found Kuo Academy, so, like me, he sees this as a good chance to pay a visit. Although, to be honest, I think he just wants to see Rias. Mr. Gremory, would you like a drink? We have some good Japanese liquor if you want to try some. So saying, my father took off to the kitchen, coming back with a bottle of what looked like sake. Hey, Tad, you can't just pull out a bottle of alcohol like that. It's rude. Despite my concerns, Sir Zek's face lit up. That sounds wonderful. Certainly, I love sake. The Demon King was more sociable than I had imagined. You're saying I can't sleep with Issei tonight? With the party over, it was time for bed. At the door of my room, the Prez stood in front of Surzax, her expression stern. I wanted to talk with him for a bit tonight, so I brought my mattress in here. Sorry, Riaz. I'll only be borrowing him for one evening. Yeah, the Demon King wanted to talk to me before turning it in, and had already brought the guest futon into my room. Riaz had gotten used to sleeping with me in my bed. She seemed genuinely crestfallen that she wouldn't be able to do so tonight. My master's love for me looked to be at an all-time high. Prez, you look like a little girl who just had her stuffed toy taken away from her. That kind of expression isn't fair. It's just too cute. Akino had recently revealed that the Prez's dependence on me was increasing by the day. She kept calling me cute, as if she couldn't bear to be without me. For my part, I was starting to worry that I wouldn't be able to measure up to her expectations. Incidentally, I was also sleeping with Ozzy every night. The three of us curled up in the same bed, with me in the middle as if wrapped in a sandwich. Truthfully, I was starting to feel strangely at ease resting together with the both of them. I felt like I understood what it would be like to sleep together with one spouse. Was having a sister the same kind of feeling? The Prez would hug me like a body pillow, and Azia, not wanting to be left out, would grab hold of me too. Every night was filled with beautiful memories, but nothing had progressed beyond that point. Was this what it meant by the term familial love? The Prez claimed to have sickness, that if she couldn't sleep with me, she would die. Azia felt forlorn whenever I left her side, and stuck to me like glue. I wondered whether my hugs were good enough for them both. Speaking of which, Matsuda recently shrieked at me with tears running down his face. Issei, I could smell Ozzy on you. What is the meaning of this? I lay in bed with her at the end of it every day, so it was no wonder that I picked up her scent. I given Matsuda some vague answer, but the whole thing was bound to snowball into another weird rumor at school. The other guys in my class must have thought that I graduated from virginity. That was fine by me. It wasn't like I had any real prospects to reach such a milestone, however. If I had been Kiba, or any other guy even, I probably would have already taken the Prez for my own. No, I can't, I thought. Even a situation as delightful as sharing a bed, I had to do things in the proper order. I couldn't skip the entree and go straight for the chef. With an attitude like that, you're more of a red virgin emperor, partner. All of a sudden, Drake came out swinging with a biting remark. Shut up. Leave me alone. One of these days, I'm gonna do it with the Prez. Just you watch. I angrily thought back. Issei. The Prez embraced me in a hug. Whoa. It felt good, but I was incredibly embarrassed to have her do so in front of other people. Riaz was so dignified and cool at school, but she had been acting like this a lot in private lately. She was kind of like that character stereotype, the model office lady who calmly carries out all of her duties at work, only to go home at night and talk to her pets, as if they were her own children. Can you sleep by yourself? Are you sure you'll be alright without me by your side? I'm not. Without you, Come along now, Lady Riaz, Grafia interrupted. Let's go back to your room. You'll have to keep me company tonight. Good night, Master Zuzax. The Prez pulled away from me as Grafia took her arm. I know, it's just... Her regretful expression, as if she left something resembled nothing so much as a parent being forced to apart from their children. Good night, Issei. I'm sorry, but it looks like I have to sleep in my own room tonight too. Azia said, bowing her head, then she scurried away. That left only the Demon King and me. Well then, should we go inside? Sir Zax asked. Yeah. It was my room, but I was still incredibly nervous. Sir Zach's movements were nothing but elegant. He had a gentle aura emanating from his body, but even someone as inexperienced as me could sense that he possessed an enormous concentration of demonic power. Undoubtedly, he could reduce me to dust if he so chose. Yet, I found myself feeling overcome with pride. Thanks to him, this man who stood at the top of the demon hierarchy, we lesser demons could go about our daily lives in peace and harmony. We owed Sir Zex a lot. Just breathing the same air was enough to prove that Sir Zex and I were completely different class. We both got ready for bed without saying anything particularly notable. I was about to turn off the lights and go to sleep when he finally spoke to me. I heard that you met Azazel. Yeah, I admitted. I'm told that he didn't do anything to you, but did he say anything? Only that he would see me again soon. I see. Azazel has a keen interest in sacred gears. Your boosted gear is no exception. In fact, he has already possessed another Longinus like yours. What does he want with it? I'm afraid I don't know. However, he is the governor of an organization strong enough to influence heaven, the underworld, and the human realm. If he was to decide to use that Longinus, there are countless paths he might take. Thankfully, unlike Kokabeel, he doesn't relish conflict. It was for that reason the fallen angels were first to withdraw from the last great war. Well, if I had any choice in the matter, I didn't want anyone other than Rias as my master. I mean, there's no way I would join Azazel. But what would I do if he tried to brainwash me and drag me into his side by force? Perhaps realizing what was worrying me, Sir Zex continued, his tone admirable. Be at ease. I will guarantee your safety. At long last, a legendary dragon has joined forces with demons. So, rest assured that we will treat you favorably. And besides, my dear sister thinks very highly of you. I've never seen her so happy. Not even in the underworld. She must be enjoying every day here in the human realm. And I suspect we have you to thank for that. I could see that Sir Zex truly cared for Rias. His words were overflowing with deep affection. Issei Hyodo, please take good care of my sister, Rias. I will. Of course I will, my Demon King. I'll protect her for as long as I can. Forever. Even if one day I manage to work my way up to being a high-class demon, that won't change the fact that I'm a member of her familia. Even if I were to become the Harem King, I would rush to Prez's aid whenever needed. I'm Rias' Grummary's pawn, right? Thank you. Ah, that's right. Do you mind if I call you Issei? Like my sister does? Of course not. I would be honored. Excellent. In that case, Issei, won't you call me by my name too? Or you could address me as your brother-in-law if you prefer. My brother-in-law? What's he getting at? I had no idea what he meant, but I was beyond honored. I'd feel a little out of place calling you that, so would Lord Sir Sex be okay? Let's go with that then, shall we? It's a shame, though. I would have liked for the legendary dragon to address me as his brother-in-law. Well, perhaps you will in the near future. So, let's leave it at that for now. Okay. It looked like Sir Zex was thinking out loud. I had no way of even guessing what went on in that mind. But as a king of demons, he probably had a lot of things to worry about. By the way, Issei? Yeah. You can use your boosted gear to transfer your power to other people and objects, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. This may be a little off topic, but I hear you like women's breasts. Is that true? Yeah, I love them. Ah, I didn't mean to blurt that out so loud to the Demon King. How rude of me. I was deathly embarrassed. Still, it was the honest truth. Even speaking as her brother, I believe that Rias's breasts are quite spectacular. Yeah, hers are the absolute best. Sir Zex, the Prez's chest is the cream of the crop. Thank you so much for bringing her up. I'm just thinking out loud here. But if you were to use your boosted gear to transfer energy to her breasts, I wonder what might happen. It's just an idle thought. Don't let it trouble you. I went rigid. Use my boosted gear gift ability on the Prez's chest? That's crazy, isn't it? But if it is possible, I had never imagined what might happen. Transferring the Red Dragon Emperor's power into her breasts? Just what would happen? I couldn't even picture it. I had no idea what to expect. This was crazy. Not even I, who people call the manifestation of raw sexual desire, could guess at the outcome. Damn if the Demon King's imagination wasn't far behind mine. What an incredible suggestion. Would they simply increase in size? But if those beautiful twin peaks got any rounder, they'd be national treasures. Maybe they'd swell, or maybe they'd glisten with luster. I had no clue. My imagination was running circles around my brain. My head was spinning more than it ever was before. My fingers undulated, grasping at imaginary breasts. I was wide awake. This was no good. At this rate, it would be impossible for me to get any rest. If I did it, if I transferred my power to those breasts, what would lie in store for me? Good night, Issei, Sir Zex said from his mattress beside me. I spent the whole night possessed by wild fantasies, unable to find the answer. Several days had passed since Sir Zex's visit. Both he and Grafia left my home the day after their arrival. It sounded like they were supposed to be inspecting the town, but having accompanied the Demon King for the past few days, all they were doing was sightseeing as far as I could see. No, given his status, he must have been taking everything in from a perspective that was above my own ability to recognize. We played games against each other at the arcade. Apparently, he wanted to set one up in the underworld. Conquered all the fast food chains. He said something about inviting a particularly famous chain to set up shop in the demon realm, and went to Shinto's shrine to pay our respects. He used his powers to dispel the shrine's sacred energy. The Demon King could do just about anything. These might have all seemed like casual outings at a first glance, but Sir Zex devoted himself to each and every one of them entirely. When I thought about his dedication, it made me realize just how undisciplined I was. Maybe that's why I was no closer to realizing my dream of becoming the Harem King. Incidentally, I still don't have the answer as to what would happen if I transfer my power to Rias's breast. Maybe I should just ask her, I thought, but there was no way I could say that to her. Prez, what if I use my boosted gear on your breasts? As if, what a stupid line. Even so, it still bothered me. I had to know. I turned the question over in my mind as Riaz, Azia, and I left the school that morning. We're off, the three of us announced as we departed. It was technically a holiday, but we had something special planned. I had been waiting for this day. I was so excited. My heart was racing, and drool leaked from the side of my mouth. It was at that moment my face twisted in a delighted grin when a voice called out, "Good morning." Zenovia had joined us midway through our trek to the school. She was living by herself in a nearby apartment. She had chosen to be reborn as a demon out of desperation and would never again be able to set foot in the Vatican. With nowhere else to go, she moved into my neighborhood. Zenovia hadn't liked the idea of living in the old school building, so she found an apartment. Her complex still had a demonic atmosphere to it. That was because her master, Riaz, along with Ozzy and I, lived so close to it. Zenovia lived nearby so that she could come to us for help if she ever had any difficulties with her new existence. It was only natural that Zenovia wouldn't understand a lot of things after plunging into a new way of living. Speaking of which, I remembered being taken aback when I saw both her and Azia open up an umbrella for the first time on a rainy day. Neither had used one before. They had been incredibly startled the first time they saw the plastic umbrella. Zenovia and Azia had truly come from very different cultures. Azia, did you finish the homework? Zenovia asked. Yeah, she replied. Did you? There's so much I don't understand about the Japanese language. Can you teach me? Of course, leave it to me. I'm not very good at kanji, though. Neither am I. Just thinking about the characters Japanese people need to learn gives me shivers. I suppose that's one of the reasons why Japan is such an economic powerhouse. The two girls were chatting with each other. Although Ozzy and Zenovia's first meeting had been a complete disaster, they were becoming fast friends. Similarly, they had both struck up a friendship with our perverted, bespectacled classmate Kiryu. Perhaps the fact they were both Christians played a role in that? The boys at school had given the two foreign beauties unusual nicknames, Azia the Still and Zenovia the Frenetic. I see. This too must be the work of the Lord. Yes, His will is everywhere. Amen. The two of them always try to engage in prayer, only to find themselves getting hurt over it. What are you two doing? I asked chidingly. Seriously, they did this way too often. The pair should have learned by now. The Prez enjoyed a small giggle. Now then, everyone, we have the pool to ourselves today. Yeah, today's our long-awaited swim day. We, the Occult Research Club, have been entrusted in cleaning the pool by the student council. Summer had arrived, and it was time to get it ready for use. The Prez had readily accepted the task, so long as that we were given special permission to be the first to use it. We went all in, cleaning away the gunk once the water had been drained. On top of that, the Prez had gone shopping for a swimsuit the other day. She had shown me a glimpse of it back home. Even if she hadn't been wearing it, the sight alone had been enough to give me an unstoppable nosebleed. I mean, it was amazing. It was so incredibly sexy. You'll see it again once we're at the pool, she said. And that was why I've been looking forward to this day. Everything in my life had been leading up to this moment. Well, that might have been an exaggeration, but I was going to enjoy summer this year. This was the season where boys became men, when people like me graduated from my virginity. Maybe during this vacation, I too would be able to do that. Unlike last year, this summer I would be surrounded by beautiful girls. Wouldn't it be wonderful if my first experience ended up being with the Prez? Hakuno would be good too. I couldn't bear it anymore. Just thinking about it set my blood on fire. Kiba had said that he wouldn't be able to make it today. He had something else that he needed to do. I just had to enjoy this twice as much in his stead. Issei, you're thinking about something dirty, aren't you? Azio pulled my cheeks. Tears in her eyes, but even she couldn't wipe away the smirk from my face. Grandpa, I know you're up there in heaven. Summer had just begun, the sun shining brightly, filling the town with warmth and light. I can't stop myself from crying at the sight before me. Even I can tell that I've become sentimental lately. Hey Issei, what do you think of my bikini? Gah, blood spurted violently from my nose. The Prez's swimsuit. She was showing so much beautiful white skin. A tiny piece of red fabric formed the top of her bikini. It was so revealing. I could even see the undersides of her breasts, and her leg lines were just as captivating. Oh dear, President. I see that you stretched yourself to the breaking point. Oh, so you wanted to show off your body to Issei that badly. By the way, Issei, what do you think of mine? Akuno made her entrance, an all-white bikini, the polar opposite of the Prez's. It was just as revealing, though. If she regularly wrapped her sexy body in that kind of outfit, she would have young guys everywhere leaning forward, trying to catch a glimpse of her. Issei, I've gotten changed too. I've turned around to find Azia standing there, fidgeting. She was wearing a school swimsuit. What incredible power. A blonde-haired beauty wearing a Japanese-style swimsuit. Her name, Azia, was written on the front in eye-catching letters. Azia, you're so cute. I'm touched. It looks great on you. She flashed me a bright smile at my reaction. The girl looked genuinely happy. I'm glad you like it. Konako's wearing one too. Whoa, Konako was wearing a school swimsuit as well? Just like Azia, Konako had her name written wonderfully on the front of it. That adorable, quiet charm was precisely why she was known as the school's mascot. You aren't looking at me obscenely for once. I don't know what to think. Konako murmured under her breath. Was she disappointed? Huh? The Prez rested a hand on Konako's shoulder. With a grin, she said, I'm sorry about this, Issei, but you see... Huh? Alright, 1, 2, 1, 2. I held Konako's hands as she kicked her legs in the water. No sooner had we gotten the pool ready than the Prez gave me another job. Konako can't swim, Issei. I want you to teach her, she said. The individual in question was taking intermittent, ragged breaths as she gasped for air, kicking her feet as hard as she could. She was so cute, trying her best to learn the ropes. Hang in there, Konako, Azia encouraged from beside her. By the way, Azia couldn't swim either. I was tasked with instructing both of them. Truthfully, I wasn't all that great in the water either. All I wanted to do was stare at the Prez's sexy bikini and worship her graceful form as she cut through the water. If only I could dive down and watch her from the bottom of the pool. It would be wonderful to watch her breasts bounce back and forth with every stroke she takes. Sorry you have to do this for me, Konako said apologetically. No, it's fine. It's fun helping a girl learn how to swim. It doesn't bother me at all, I replied sincerely. Had I been teaching a guy, I don't think I would have liked it. But for a girl, I was all in. Since it was Azia and Konako that we were talking about, I would stick by their sides all day as long as I could. And we're at the end of the pool. After kicking with all her strength for 25 meters, Konako had built up considerable momentum and crashed straight into me. It was nothing more than an accident, but to any onlookers, it must have looked like she was hugging me. Uh-oh. At this rate, she was bound to hit me with one of her superhuman punches. Spare me. I was on guard against any sudden swings, but Konako's actual reaction caught me by surprise. You're surprisingly kind, Issei, for a sick freak. I couldn't tell whether she was complimenting me or not. Perhaps it was only my imagination, but Konako's cheeks seemed a little bit flushed. Well, I do like helping my juniors out, you know. I'm always causing you trouble, so if I could be useful for once, then I'm glad, I answered, patting her on the head the way the Prez did with me. I knew from experience that having a member of the opposite sex pat you on the head was nice. Then again, I had no idea whether Konako would appreciate it. All of a sudden, someone leaped into the pool. The Prez was swimming gracefully down one of the other lanes. Whoa, this is my chance. I dove underwater as fast as I could and activated my sacred gear. Then I placed a gauntleted hand against my forehead and focused my increased power.
Transfer!
The energy passed through my eyes as my visual acuity skyrocketed. My field of vision expanded up, adding incredible detail to my surroundings. I spotted the Prez over on the far side. This was what my sacred gear was made for. Water resistance caused Rias's breast to bounce marvelously. This was it. Perfection. It was unique, awe-inspiring sight watching them move. Those voluptuous miracles swayed brilliantly. Long have I dreamed for this. That incredible buzz shot back and forth in every possible direction. What fantastic movements. Damn it. Prez. Thank you. They're irresistible today. When I got home, I will be able to do it 5 times straight. I will burn this image into my memory for all eternity. Something crashed mercilessly against my head. Gah! I gagged, setting bubbles up to the surface. When I shot up to the surface, I found Konako, her arm outstretched as if having dealt a karate chop. You're going to help Azia now, right? She stated grimly. Azia looked ready to cry. She was clearly upset. I cleared my throat and turned my attention back to my job. Alright, Azia, are you ready? Yes, thank you. From there, we moved to Azia's swimming lesson. I'm so tired. Azia laid sprawled out on a vinyl tarpaulin by the side of the pool. I had held her hand as she practiced paddling in the pool, but probably because she had been much more excited than I anticipated, we ended up doing more laps than I could count. Exercising in the water used up more energy than running on land. It must have been pretty hard for her, considering that she wasn't particularly good at physical activities, even at the best of times. Konako was taking a break in the shade, reading a book. Phew, I let out a sigh of relief as I sat down next to Azia. I was sure that my strength and stamina had improved considerably since becoming a demon, but even so, I was exhausted. I guess exercising by yourself and helping someone else train were different tasks, especially when the person you were helping was a girl. Was Azia snoring? I glanced toward her, only to find that she had fallen asleep. She was so cute when she nodded off like this. There was no way I would be able to live with myself if I let her marry someone else. As I stared at her dozing face, a feeling of tranquility washed over me. A redback came soaring my way. It was one of Prez's familiars. All of a sudden, I felt someone's gaze land on me. I turned back around to find the Prez staring at me from the other side of the pool. She was holding something in her hand. A small bottle? Oil? Lotion? With a broad grin, she beckoned me to join her. Come here, she mouthed in silence. Whoa. It can't be. Overcome with a certain feeling, I sped towards Reyes with an inhuman speed. This could only mean one thing. Yeah, you guessed it. A midsummer sun oiling. What else could the Prez possibly have meant? She wanted me to oil her arms and legs, her whole body even. I had to be dreaming. For an unpopular guy like me, it was a total fantasy. I couldn't believe it. The Prez was about to let me enjoy her soft body with my own 2 hands. Whoa, just thinking about it was enough to give me a nosebleed. Ise Hyodo, reporting for duty. The Prez wore a surprised expression for a moment as she beheld her overly excited servant before breaking into a amused chuckle. Wow, look at you. And all I did was beckon for you to join me. Uh-huh. She had seen clear through me. I felt my cheeks turn red. Ugh, This is so embarrassing. I had totally assumed that she wanted me to lather her in oil. I was disappointed. No, that wouldn't do. If Ria's called me over, then she must have wanted me to do something. I was her pawn after all, but I would have liked to rub her down. Don't look so sad, Issei. You guessed right. Huh? I exhaled in suspense. Did I hear that right? I thought, unbelieving. Demons don't get sunburned, but the sun's light is still the enemy to us. The Prez paused there, handing me a small bottle that she had been holding. This is a special beauty oil. Can you rub it on my back? Of course, with pleasure, I replied without even a moment's hesitation. My response was only natural. My brain understood the situation instantly. I had thought that lotioning up a girl's body was merely a lofty fantasy, but here it was playing out in real life. I was weeping with joy. In that case, I'll get ready. Without any hesitation, the Prez undid her bikini top. With nothing to hold them in place, Rias' naked breasts revealed themselves. Why, hello there. How many times had I made an acquaintance with those beautiful darlings now? No, hold on, Prez. Are you really going to be removing your top in front of a guy like me in broad daylight? I moved to squeeze my nose to stem the flow of blood surging forth, but I couldn't stop my gaze. Ah, Prez, what a beautiful shade of pink your nipples are. Prez, you should tell me if you're planning on taking off your bikini like that. I wasn't ready. I mean, in front of a guy? Are you alright with this? Yes. You're the only man here, so I don't mind at all. Rias replied with a confident smile. I was touched that she would say that. Hold on. So she does see me as a man? Maybe it's okay because I'm her servant? I don't quite get it. Whatever the situation, this was undoubtedly a great treat. The Prez lay face down on top of a vinyl tarpaulin and threw her long crimson hair back over her shoulder as she glanced up at me. Believe me, her pale skin was dazzling. She was lying on her stomach, so her voluptuous breasts were pressing against the ground, spreading out on either side. Incredible. I wanted to press my fingers against that magnificent bust. Hold on. This is my chance to transfer my boosted gear's power to them, right? Please begin. The Prez had permitted me to touch her. She was letting me fondle her soft white skin. I had lived my whole life and wait for this day. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. I'm about to take another step forward of the journey of life. Matsuda, Motohama. I'm climbing to the next rung of the ladder of adulthood. I'm leaving you both further and further behind. You could both crawl and grovel down there far below. I was soaring. Just the thought of touching the Prez's body had given me wings. My fingers wriggled obscenely as I moved to touch Rias' back. Whoa, it looked so soft and smooth. It was just begging me to caress it. I opened the bottle of the special demon oil and rubbed it all over my hands, now to discover the mysteries of the feminine body. I pressed my hands against her skin and began to rub the oil on her flesh. Ah, damn it. I knew you had great skin, Prez. It was so smooth that my fingers were practically gliding over it. And at the same time, it was so supple that it felt like it was going to cling to my palms. Every second my fingertips stroked that gorgeous, elastic flesh, my nerves positively billowed with life. I spread the oil out uniformly over the Prez's back, but even I realized that I lacked the courage to touch her breast against the tarpaulin. She would probably forgive me if my hands were to slip and brush against them, but I wouldn't be able to escape the guilt of having done so. But I wanted to touch her breast so much. I was already rubbing way more lotion on her back than necessary. If only this could have continued forever. Acting too obvious with this could result in the Prez getting mad at me, though. Issei. Yeah. There's an area that you haven't touched yet. I know that you want to dominate this body of mine. That stimulating, provocative line set my mind on fire. Where on earth had she learned Japanese like that? The kind of words that could tickle a pervert's heart in just the right places. Won't you rub my breasts as well? Her delectable Japanese crept into my ears. I all but sobbed with joy. Right, of course, but are you sure? I asked just in case. The press, however, flashed me a smile, nodding. Go ahead, take your time. Oh, you do love breasts, don't you, Issei? Yup, I adore them. I replied, tears streaming down my cheeks. I really did. They were my absolute favorite things in the whole wide world. Boobs were justice. I wanted to rub them. I wanted to squeeze them. I wanted to suck them both right up. The press was definitely spoiling me now. I was overjoyed. What a wonderful master I have. Oh, Issei, won't you rub me down too? Cooed a new voice. A soft, pliable sensation pushed against my back. I knew this feeling. I glanced over my shoulder and came face to face with Akano. Akano, when did you... She wrapped her arms around me in a hug from behind. Whoa. The sensation of her breast pressing against my back coursed through me. Hold on. I couldn't feel any cloth or fabric. It couldn't be. Are they pressing against me directly? Akano, did you take off your bikini? Oh dear. It isn't fair for you to keep him for yourself, President. Akano said as if reprimanding Rias. Akano's breast continued to smoosh wonderfully against me as she moved. It seemed like that soft feeling was running wild over me. She was doing this on purpose. She had to be. And I could feel the tips turning stiff. This was too much for me to take in. How could it not have been? No matter how deeply I immersed myself in oiling the Prez's back, if Akano were to do this to me, it was inevitable that she would stop me in my tracks. Her tits. Their pliable, elastic softness. Their undeniable presence. It was all incredibly awesome. I was in love with the sensation. The weight and size of them felt so different from the Prez's. Hey, Akano. Perhaps you haven't noticed, but Issei hadn't finished oiling me. And I warned you to not try to seducing him, didn't I? The Prez lifted herself up, her eyes twitching. She was clearly ticked off. Hold on, Prez. If you sit up like that without your bikini top on, they were in my full view. I could see her chest in all its naked glory. Rias' boobs were swaying gracefully before my very eyes. Wow, I could see them trembling up and down, side to side with her every movement. Akano rested her head against my shoulder. Just like that, our cheeks were pressing up against each other. She rubbed her face against mine. Some unknown heat began to rage through my body. An untamed beast suddenly let loose. Issei, the president is terrifying at times, you know? I'm normally so busy running around doing errands every day. So, I wanted to let off some steam with my cute little junior. She's biting my earlobe. This was just too erotic. I stood frozen in place, unable to move a muscle. Seriously, Akano had me, the living embodiment of erotic desire, entirely under her spell. It was all I could do to keep my nose from becoming blood fountain. Not good. I could feel the blood dripping down my face every few seconds. Really, Issei, you are just too adorable. President, won't you let me have him? I simply must take him with me when I set out on my own one day. No, he's mine. I'll never give him up. There's no one else as wonderful as Issei here. Surely, you won't mind if I coddle him every now and then? Perhaps play some intimate games with him? Out of the question. I don't want Issei to know any woman but me. Well, I suppose I might not have any choice when it comes to Azia. But He'll turn into a beast if I let you have him. Oh dear, that isn't a very nice thing to say. Don't you think men are at their best when they act a little savage? But if you're hesitating, maybe I should take his chastity for myself. Never. Don't even joke about that. Our familia's king and queen were fighting over who would get to keep me as their pet. Yet, I was totally fine with it. Call me whatever you want. Call me a vulgar cur, Prez, Akano. By the way, Issei. Akano? Don't whisper in my ear like that. I can feel her breath. No, don't blow in my ear. Why are you so horny? Did you get to suck on the president's breasts? I didn't. Oh dear, you poor thing. The president's so protective of you, but she hasn't even let you do that. Akano sighed provocatively. She may have been speaking to me, but those words were clearly meant for Riez. Sure enough, the president's expression turned suddenly grim. This was quickly getting scary. In that case, I'll let you suck mine. Please, go ahead. For a brief second, my mind went blank, and I was left wondering what Akano had said to me. However, before I could fully process the words, our erotic queen struck another seductive blow. You can feel them rolling across your back, can't you, Issei? I'm saying that you could hold them in your mouth. Do you understand? Akano's nipples were dancing across my skin. What I understood was that my whole body was aroused. She might have been my senior and I was her junior, but if she kept this up, I'll let your tongue crawl all over them. I'll let you twirl it around their tips. I'll let you suck on them like a baby. I'll let you go as wild as your animal instincts take over. It would be my first time letting a man have his way with them. I wonder what it would feel like. Akano's rough moans assailed my eardrums. Her words were launching a full-scale assault on me. Had her sexual sadism come out to play? It was just too stimulating. My brain was going all fuzzy. An object sped past me, followed by a sound of something shattering into pieces. I fearfully turned around, only to find one of the pool diving boards had disappeared. Turning to the Prez, I saw that a powerful aura had enveloped her hand. Had she just tried to blast me? Akano, don't you think you're taking this a little too far? You serve me as a member of my familia too. Or have you forgotten? Rias' voice was dark and low. There was apparent malevolence in her glaze. Let me tell you, I was terrified. Oh dear, if you put it like that, then I might find myself in a spot of bother. I won't back down, Riaz. Akano, still smiling, closed her eyes for a second, but when she opened them again, they were burning with anger. A golden aura enveloped her body, crackling with electricity. The Prez rose to her feet, and Akano stood back from me, readying herself. These two gorgeous beauties, their naked breasts bare for all to see, faced off against each other. The both of them were readying their powers. Was this going to end up turning into a war between two women? You can't have him, you debauched Vestal of Thunder. Where's the problem? I'm only playing with him, you crimson-haired virgin of annihilation. You're a virgin too. Oh, if you're going to be like that, then maybe I'll take Issei's virginity here and now. Don't you dare. Issei said that he was going to take my virginity. There was a thundering rush of air as Riaz and Akano launched into the air. They came at each other with blows that went beyond normal disagreements. Two young women shouldn't have been insulting each other with the words like virgin. I thought you hated men, Akano. Why are you suddenly so interested with Issei? You're the one to talk, Riaz. I remember you saying they all look the same to you. Issei is special. He's cute. He's adorable to me too. I finally met a boy who I wanted to get to know. So why won't you let me explore him? I had no idea it had come to this, but they were duking it out for real. They were letting out one explosive bombardment of a demonic power after another, seeming wholly oblivious to the fact that I was still standing right here. Whoa, that last attack was too close for comfort. The side of the pool had been blown into pieces. If I had remained where I was, one of their stray shots was bound to hit me. There was no doubt I'd be struck dead on the spot. I wanted to find some way to stop them, but I couldn't. If I got mixed up with a battle like this, I would be completely obliterated. I'm sorry, Prez. Akano. Desperate, all I could think to do was apologize from the bottom of my heart before hastily fleeing to the pool equipment room. Having come face to face with the possibility of death, I was breathing raggedly, trying to calm my nerves in the storeroom by the pool. I had been running for my life. Those two lovely girls could get incredibly terrifying. If I had been half the man I wanted to be, I would have fondled both of their chests at the same time, saying something like, "Hey, there's no need to fight over me, my darlings." Reality, however, wasn't so rosy. In the end, all I was able to do was dash off with my tail between my legs. I suppose that did make me the Occult Research Club's pet. Since I was the only one like that in the club, perhaps that explained why Rias and Akano would wind up competing over me. Still, the Prez's and Akano's way of showing affection towards the lower member of the Familia was beyond my wildest dreams. Indeed, the path to becoming a harem king was a steep one. Though, maybe it was just merely the girls that I knew were unusually scary. I let out a deep sigh, then I suddenly sensed the presence of another person nearby. At that moment, Zenovia stepped out from the shadows. Issei Hyodo, what's up? It sounds like something is going on outside. You're better off staying in here for now. And what are you doing here anyway? This was my first time wearing a bikini, so it took me a while to put it on. What do you think? Why had she gone out of her way to change in the storage room when there was a perfectly good girls' locker room? It might not have been as erotic as the Prez's and Akano's bikinis, but Zenovia was wearing a lovely two-piece that emphasized their curves. As I surmised, she has a great body too, I observed silently. It was well-toned but full and ripe in all the right places. Her breasts were on the large side as well, and she showed a decent amount of cleavage. Yep, it suits you. So, is this your first time wearing a bathing suit? I knew the church was strict, but that is banned too? Something like that. I suppose I'd just never been interested in this kind of thing before. The nuns I worked with were other female fighters, often complained about not being able to try new things like this. Zenovia was undoubtedly the type to say something akin to fighting is more my kind of thing. But now that everything in my life has changed, I would like to try a few more feminine pleasures. At least, that's how I've been feeling recently. That was all well and good, so long as she didn't get any weird ideas. Suddenly, Zenovia's expression grew grave. Issei Hyodo, I would like to have a word with you. Just call me Issei. We're allies now, after all. In that case, Issei, let me say this outright. I want you to bear a child with me. Huh? What did she say? Zenovia cocked her head to one side. Did you hear me? Issei, I want to make a baby with you. What? Huh? Were my ears deceiving me? Had I just heard a line that would make any man jump for joy? But this was Zenovia we were talking about. Again, she repeated it. Issei, come and make a baby with me. What? Zenovia hurried to block my mouth as I cried out in shock. Shh. Keep your voice down. Someone might notice us. keep my voice down. How was I supposed to do that? What did she think she was requesting of me? You can't. Out of nowhere like that. I murmured, squirming. I'd best explain from the beginning then, she remarked. She told me that when she was born and raised in Rome, the heart of a Christian church, with the impossibly rare ability to wield a holy sword. As such, she trained and studied hard to serve God in the church from an early age. Ever since I was a child, my dreams and goals have been closely connected to my faith. I never doubted that I was fighting demons in the name of the Lord, or that the Vatican's mission was to spread the gospel, which is why now that I've become a demon myself, I find myself without any aspirations. Yeah, I get that, but what does it have to do with making babies? I stuttered. It seemed that Zenovia was thinking a little too hard about this, but she did look troubled. While I was serving the Lord, I had to cast aside all joys of womanhood. I sealed my wants away, all for the sake of my faith. But as you see, I'm a demon now. At first, I didn't know what to do, so I asked Riaz as my new master, and she said, demons live to desire, to fulfill their desires, to grant desires, and yearn for desires. Try existing for yourself. And that's why I thought I should unleash everything that I've been bottling up inside me. She's talking about partaking in feminine pleasures, right? My new goal, my new dream, is to bear children. You want to be a woman, right? To do things that only women can do? Because you were supposed to be chaste while you were in the church or something? Zenovia nodded. Yeah, I want to know what it's like to have offspring. To do that, I also need to know what it's like to have a man inside me. It seems like the perfect opportunity. 2 birds, 1 stone. No, hold on. I get all that, but why me? Do you object? I'm confident in my body. My breasts might not be as large as the president's, but they're certainly bigger than Asia's, don't you think? They're worth a look, wouldn't you agree? Zenovia stroked her chest with her fingers. I couldn't refute that Zenovia's breasts were on the large side, and I did want to grope them. I so badly wished to squeeze them between my fingers. Look, I really want to do that with a girl. To be honest, I'd jump at even the slightest chance. But are you sure? I mean, with me? I'm not your boyfriend or anything, and I never thought about having kids. Huh. Bearing children of my own, huh? Not too long ago, I had never had any luck with the opposite sex. I had all but given up. But then I had been brought back to life as a demon, and my dreams and aspirations had been reborn too. That significant change had left me thinking about the future as well. Zenovia nodded in response to my question. You're fine, Issei. I don't think you realize this, but you have the aura of a dragon. Undoubtedly, that's because you have the Red Dragon Emperor inside you. And you have a little more energy than when we first met. Really? I wondered. I hadn't noticed. If I'm going to make a child, I want them to be strong. I want their father's genes to be powerful. In other words, I desire strength. That's why you're the most qualified, Issei. You possess the power of the legendary Red Dragon Emperor. Even if you can't pass on your sacred gear, there's a chance that your children might inherit the aura of yours, no? This is an excellent opportunity. I'm sure the Lord will... I began to pray for a moment, but I guess that's just how it is for me now. There's no one here but us. Let's try it. The sooner, the better. Without any hesitation at all, Zenovia undid her bikini top, letting her breast bounce free right in front of me. They were springing up and down so delightfully. Her nipples, they were a beautiful shade of pink. Until recently, Zenovia had been a devotee of God. That meant nobody else ever touched them, right? So she was offering them to me now instead of God? My mind began to race in all matters of wild fantasies, just as my nose started bleeding all over again. How many liters of blood have I lost today? Zenovia paid no mind, however. Instead, she continued to explain how she arrived at her decision. I know a little about demons in childbirth. It isn't easy for demons to bear children. I heard that conception is difficult for pure-blooded demons. Fortunately, though, we both became demons via reincarnation. We're both former humans, and you have a robust sexual appetite. I think it's safe to assume that if we do this every day, we should be able to conceive one within 10 years. No, with your vigorous libido, perhaps even doing it several times each day? In that case, having children within 5 years might become more than just a dream. Don't worry about the child though. I'll raise them. All I want from you is to play with them whenever they want their father's affection. After all, a child should have both parents in their life. She's already outlined an entire plan for the future? I'm afraid I don't have any experience with men. I intend to learn more down the road, but for now, given your wealth of sexual knowledge, I'll let you take the lead. So she was a virgin. Why was I surrounded by so many charming, inexperienced young women? Hold me. I don't mind what you do to me, so long as it helps us make a baby. Zenovia wrapped her arms around me. Whoa. Her breasts were pushing against my chest. Damn, they were soft. Was I okay with this? Could I accept her pushing me down? Was it really right for me to go all the way here? Was my first time going to be with Zenovia instead of the Prez? There was no one else here. It was only us. Our absence likely wouldn't arouse too much suspicion, but wait, would we have enough time? I mean, I was a virgin too. If I didn't make love to her now, I would forever be unworthy of manhood. It was finally here, my graduation. Matsuda, Morohama, I'm leaving you both behind. As far as I could see, summer made girls into extremes. Maybe that was because so many high schoolers had their first sexual encounter during summer break. Alright then, let's do this, Zenovia. I was prepared and ready. I thought an apology to the Prez and pushed Zenovia to the ground. No sooner had I done so than, all of a sudden, the door of the room swung open. Issei, what exactly is going on here? The Prez stood in the entrance, her face twitching in a forced grin. Her body was glowing with a thin layer of crimson power. Oh dear, not fair, Zenovia. Surely, you know that Issei's chastity belongs to me. Akuno was smiling, but she wore a formidable aura around her. Issei, how awful. If you just asked me, I would have... Even Azia looked like she wanted to say something as she fidgeted by the door. She was clearly incensed. You can't let your guard down around him, Konako said piercingly. What's wrong? Come on, Issei, let's make a baby. Zenovia stared at me, her expression oblivious. Hey, Zenovia, read the room. Everyone standing by the doorway underwent a sudden change when they heard those words. The present Akuno grabbed me by the arms and began to drag me outside to the pool. They were putting incredible strength into their grips as they hauled me out. Prez, I can explain this. I know. This is my fault. Given your hypersexuality, I shouldn't have taken my eyes off you even for a second. But, Issei, tell me, what exactly did Zenovia mean by let's make a baby? Rias asked. I shuddered in fear at the sight of that soft smile. The Prez was absolutely terrifying. Indeed. I would like to hear a little bit more about your feelings on that as well. Just how could your conversation have turned into a subject of children, I wonder? Akiner was wearing a similar expression to Ria's, but it hardly matched the intensity that raged beneath it. Gah! All of a sudden, I felt weightless, only to find Konako with her superhuman strength raising me up in the air by my legs. We'll take you where you need to go. Konako? What are you planning to do to me? Hold on. Am I being hauled away by a group of girls? I see. So first, I will have to defeat the president, the vice president, and Azio too. This will not be an easy task, but the greater the number of rivals, the more fired up I get. What? Don't get encouraged over this, Zenovia. She always tended to give strange statements, but this, no. I had let myself get carried away this time too. Issei, when we have the chance, I'm going to make a baby with you. Remember that, and I'll be ready. Zenovia, help me. Like that, Zenovia had ended up adding more fuel to the fire, and given my perverted nature, I hadn't been able to refuse her. Talk about a stimulating day. I had left the pool and was strolling through the school grounds on my way home. Compared to those days back when I didn't even have a single girl in my life, this was pure bliss. But why was I so tired? The naked bodies of the women I craved, the bare forms of these stunning beauties, boobs. I was utterly spellbound by the image of those plump breasts bouncing in my mind. But for some reason, whenever I dared to do anything more than think of them, my exhaustion seemed to grow. I closed my eyes and replayed the saved memories of the presses in Akino's chest. They were wonderful. Unfortunately, I also recalled that the present Akino's ultimate showdown, and I shrunk back in fright. They were both genuinely terrifying when they got angry. Yeah, I would have to make sure that I never crossed either. As if that hadn't been enough, there was also a problem with Zenovia. I would have never expected her to be so bold. She had always been somewhat aloof, but she had become more impulsive ever since joining the Familia. She sure was cute though. As I made my way off campus, a silver glint near the gate caught my attention. For a moment, I almost mistook it for a scene from a painting. An incredibly handsome young guy was staring up at the school building. His hair was glistening, argent shade. Graphius' hair was silver too, but this man's was deeper, or rather, had a stronger and darker hint to it. He was a foreigner, so I had a hard time working out how old he was just from his appearance. But if I had to guess, I would have said around my age, or perhaps a little younger. All he was doing was looking up at the school building, but that simple act seemed curiously dreamy and fantastical. Suddenly, his gaze shifted to me. His eyes were clear blue and practically drew me right in. Flashing me an angelic smile, he called out, "Looks like you got a nice school." Yeah, I guess you could say that," I replied, forcing a grin. "Who is he? There are plenty of exchange students at Kuo Academy, so maybe he's transferring in? I better give him a good impression then," I reasoned. As I stood there wondering how to answer, if he were to ask me about the school, he whispered something so far beyond my expectations that I was dumbfounded. "I'm Volley, the White Dragon Emperor, the Vanishing Dragon." Huh? What did he just... I guess this is our second time meeting. Welsh Dragon, Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hyodo. He's kidding, right? Sadly, it sure didn't look like he was. My left hand felt like it was burning. That had to be Drake responding to the presence of a fellow dragon. Hey, come on, Drake, is this guy for real? Was this the moment of a fated showdown between two eternal rivals? I wasn't ready for this at all. And if we fought, it could end up getting Prez and the others in danger. I didn't feel any particular sense of dread. Then again, Maybe that's what certainty of your own death felt like? My whole body was telling me if we came to blows, there was no way it would end up well. Was this feeling coming from Drake, or my sacred gear's countless past hosts? Was this guy really supposed to be my destiny? What a cruel joke. I hadn't even been able to do anything genuinely perverted with the Prez yet. If I was going to die young, I at least wanted it to happen after I slept with Riaz. What am I supposed to do? The vanishing dragon flashed me an indomitable grin as I braced myself. That's right. If, for example, I was to use my powers against you right here, Hyodo. At that moment, just as the vanishing dragon's hand approached the tip of my face, two swords were suddenly thrust towards the vanishing dragon's neck, holding him in place. It was Kiba and Zenovia. Kiba was wielding his holy demon sword, and Zenovia was armed with her holy sword Durandal. I hadn't sensed either of them approaching. Had they used their incredible speed that knights possess to rush to my aid? Both Kiba and Zenovia's weapons were emitting intense auras. The pair was glaring at the vanishing dragon, their eyes razor sharp. I don't know what your intentions are, but don't you think you've taken this joke a little too far? Kiba spat. We can't let you start a duel with the Red Dragon Emperor here, White Dragon Emperor, Zenovia stated threateningly. Without even flinching, the vanishing dragon replied, You should think twice about that. Your hands are trembling, no? As he said, both Kiba and Zenovia were quivering. They may have been carrying mighty blades, but their expressions were fraught with anxiety. It's all well and good to boast. The fact that you can recognize the difference between our respective fighting abilities is a testament to your strength. But there is a decisive gulf between you two and I. You can't defeat me, just as you couldn't best the likes of Kokabeel. Kokabeel. Even fighting together, we members of Reyes Gremmer's Familia had failed to stand up against that high-ranking fallen angel. Just thinking back of that battle was enough to make me break out into a cold sweat. I hadn't even been able to tell whether using the Red Dragon Emperor's scale mail would have been enough to take him down. And the vanishing dragon had just said the likes of Kokabeel. Was he looking down on him? Ise Hyodo, where do you imagine you rank among the most powerful in this world? The vanishing dragon suddenly inquired. In strength? Me? I had no idea. I had heard that the Red Dragon Emperor possessed extraordinary, dreaded power, but I didn't know where I stood in practical terms. What's more, even if my sacred gear was mighty, I was still an inexperienced individual. Counting back from the top, with your incomplete balance breaker, you're in the 4-digit category, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500. No, considering the whole specs, a bit lower maybe. I found myself filled with questions and doubts. What was he trying to get at? There are a great many powerful fighters in this world. Not even the Crimson Satan, your Sir Zex Lucifer, ranks among the top 10. Are there really that many people stronger than Sir Zex? I could hardly imagine it. The vanishing dragon held up a finger. But there's no questioning who sits at the first place position. That one never changes. Who do you mean? Are you trying to say that you're the best? The vanishing dragon merely shrugged at my question. You'll find out sooner or later. But it isn't me. Ise Hyodo is a valuable commodity. Raise him well, Reyes Gremmery. The vanishing dragon's gaze flitted to something behind me. I turned around, only to find the Prez approaching. Whoa, she looked incredibly pissed. Azia, Akano, and Konako stood around her. In stark contrast to Azia, who looked visibly distressed, Akano and Konako were ready for action. White Dragon Emperor, what is the meaning of this? If you have ties to the fallen angels, you shouldn't seek to contact us without the two heavenly dragons, the Welsh Dragon and the Vanishing Dragon. In the past, Those who involved themselves with these figures didn't live long, happy lives. I wonder what fate has in store for you. The silver-haired boy interjected. The Prez looked visibly stunned by the jerk's threatening outburst. What's wrong, Prez? It's about me, isn't it? I didn't come here to fight. I just wanted to take a look at the school that I dropped into the other day. I'm in town with Azazel, but you wouldn't guess how boring this place is. I won't fight the Welsh Dragon here. And besides, I've got plenty of other things that I need to be doing. With those parting words, the Vanishing Dragon turned heel and left. However, even once he had gone, the tension that hung over us remained. Kiba and Zenovia put away their swords, but their expressions remained tense. Azia pulled me close, taking my sweaty hands in her own. Thanks, Azia. That helps a little. Azazel and the Vanishing Dragon, two people I never wanted to meet, now gone out of their way to have encounters with me. Next part. When I got back to my room, I sat on the floor in silence and rested my head against the side of the bed. The White Dragon Emperor, the Vanishing Dragon, the counterpart to the Welsh Dragon that dwelled inside my left arm. The two were supposedly destined to be rivals, with my boosted gear fated to do battle with the Divine dividing. The moment I realized who he was, Drake had responded inside me. Anger, or was it? Perhaps it had been elation at the thought of battle. Regardless, I had definitely felt something flare up in me. If the Vanishing Dragon had chosen to pick a fight then and there, Drake may have forced me into battle, my incomplete balance breaker notwithstanding. I had sensed no hostility or anything like that when I first encountered the Vanishing Dragon the other day, but this time was different. He approached me with interest. Drake must have sensed that too. To be honest, I couldn't comprehend the notion of destiny. From what Drake said, it seemed the boosted gear was just randomly passed on from one person to the next, and each of its owners got caught in the middle of some battle between the Welsh Dragon and the Vanishing Dragon. The people around me seemed to think similarly, that the Vanishing Dragon and I were a pair that would ultimately duke it out with each other one day. I don't get it. Why? What is with all of that? I was Issei Hyodo, a mere demon. Why did I have to get wound up in something messy as that? It had nothing to do with me. Destiny could go to hell. Unfortunately, no matter what I thought, I couldn't change the situation. In the end, it seemed like I would have to fight him. I didn't have anything against that silver-haired guy personally. Heck, I would have liked to thank him for taking down Kokabeel. But he was working for the Fallen Angels, and if not for him, I might have had the chance to suck on Prez's breasts. I couldn't forgive that. It looked like there were many obstacles down the path of becoming a high-class demon. As I saw it, there were 3 ways of making the climb. The first was to keep forming packs with humans and steadily build up a reputation. That was what I was trying to do from the get-go. I had been able to secure some regular clients, but I have recently been made acutely aware that it was difficult to get promoted through fulfilling the kind of deals that I did. Unless I forged a particularly impressive pact with a noteworthy client, like the president of a country or someone who could leave their mark on history, this would be a tough route. This method was said to depend mainly on luck and the territory of one's master was based in. Sadly, as far as I knew, there weren't any notable potential clients around these parts. And to top things off, the demon business was experiencing a downward trend. The market was shrinking. Even so, the work was a tradition for demons, so we refused to give up on it. The second path was to perform a noteworthy feats of arms. Something like winning the battle against Kokabeel and his fallen angels might have done the trick. However, the Prez had received most of the credit that time. From what I gathered, her reputation had risen considerably. Kokabeel had been a fallen angel leader, so that checked out. If I had been able to take him down, I wonder what that might have meant for my social standing. As you might have expected, very few managed to enter the rank of high-class demons through achievements in battle. Given the current three-way dreadlock against demons, the forces of God, and the fallen angels, it was pretty rare to get the chance to find such a notable opponent. The odds of another great war breaking out were practically zero, so most people would never get the chance to go up against anyone famous. The third method was through the raiding game. In fact, according to the Prez, this was the shortest and surest path to success. Basically, she had said that if I wanted to one day become a high-class demon, I would have to make a name for myself participating in more raiding games. It seemed like the underworld was using contests as a way to reinvigorate the demon economy. Practically everything was connected to them one way or another. Even the ranks of all the famous families were directly determined by the performance in raiding games. Yeah, even the house of that roast chicken bastard Riser Phoenix owed much of its success to raiding games. Many reincarnated demons just like me had been able to build a reputation for themselves through the raiding games, win their independence, and enter the upper echelons of demon society. When that happened, the Demon Kings would grant them a set of evil pieces, allowing them to recruit their own servants to serve as their familia, which they would lead as its king. However, even stepping out on your own, you still had to aid your original master when called upon, and you kept your old peace when that happened. So, as far as the master was concerned, servant demons were recruited for life. Even if I managed to become a king of my own familia, I would still be Rias's pawn whenever she played a raiding game. The members of the Prez's familia were making our official debut soon. If I remember correctly, Rias would have to start preparing for raiding games in earnest as soon as she graduated from high school, which was less than a year away. It was practically around the corner. Basically, if you were able to rise to the rank of a high-class demon the first way, through making pacts with clients, it wouldn't matter unless you were a capable fighter in the raiding game. The contest was an essential aspect of social cultivation and etiquette. Not only that, but even if I managed to become a harem king, people around me would still laugh if I couldn't hold my own in a fight, and I would end up causing more trouble for the Prez. I had to find some way to get stronger. Being reborn as a demon had only given me more to worry about, but that would make my happiness all the sweeter once I did build up my harem. The most important thing was the opinions of the bigwigs of the demon society, the 4 great demon kings, the dukes, and all the others like them. So putting everything together, my goal was to become a high-class demon. To that end, I needed to go all out and do everything I could to build my raiding game reputation starting next year. It was a lot of work. I couldn't afford to have this rivalry with the White Dragon Emperor blow up out of control in the middle of it all. But if I were able to defeat the White Dragon Emperor, surely that would increase my standing too, right? But I guess that's already expected of the Red Dragon Emperor. That vanishing dragon sure is a real pain. Still thinking things over? All of a sudden, the Prez's face appeared in front of me, upside down. Rias was laying on top of my bed. She was reading a magazine, but had stopped to peer down at me. Whenever she had a spare moment, she liked to spend it in my room. Not exactly. I scratched my cheeks in embarrassment. At this, the Prez stepped down from the bed and sat by my side. I trust you, Issei, no matter what. Besides, I'm confident you could defeat the White Dragon Emperor, she added with a warm smile. Prez, I was so grateful to hear those words, to see that look of hers. Those kind gestures cleared away all the troubles that clouded my heart. Prez, my eyes were getting wet. I was about to start crying all over again. Rias tapped her thigh with her hand. I knew the signal. Come along now. Prez, a lap pillow, my healing space. Tears of gratitude coursing down my cheeks. I placed my head on her sweet thighs and let her pamper me. She gently stroked my head. I'm sorry the day ended up the way it did. I wanted to cheer you up, but all I did was scare you. Prez, are you worried about what happened earlier? Not at all. I'm the one that wasn't able to live up to your expectations or Akano's, but I was able to oil your skin, so I'm more than satisfied. That was the truth. I mean, Riaz had fulfilled so many of my lifetime goals. Honestly, I was happy. I'll need you to oil me again, Issei. It's going to be a long summer. Of course. Leave it to me. Alright. Alright. The press was going to let me oil her down again. Does a greater joy even exist? I had been so stressed since my encounter with the White Dragon Emperor, but all it took to clear my head was surrendering my thoughts to a bit of eroticism. Perhaps because of that sudden relief, I started nodding off. The press's lap pillow really is nice. And like that, I drifted off to the realm of sleep.